Welcome to the Catch Up with Claire. I'm your host, Claire Hoon, and every week we hand the mic to women who are showing up, speaking out, and figuring it out in real time. Because when women start talking, no topic is off limits. Careers, identity shifts, friendships, family dynamics, breakups, big dreams, bigger feelings, and yes, motherhood too. Think of it like calling your best friend on the landline in 1999. Lighthearted, unfiltered, and somehow deeper than you expected. Whether you're raising your kids, raising standards, or raising hell, this space is for you. So settle in. It's time to catch up. Welcome to the Catch Up with Claire. I'm your host, Claire Hoon. And before I get into introducing today's guest, I do want to put a content and trigger warning on this episode. It is May. It is Maternal Mental Health Awareness Month. Many of the episodes in this month are going to have these content warnings around some of the very hard experiences of mental health. In this episode, we talk about suicide ideation. We talk about dark feelings. And if that is something that you are experiencing or feeling triggered by, I want to honor the headspace in which you are in and invite you to come back to this when you are ready, if you are ready. We will put resources in the show notes around getting support. If you are suffering and need help right now, please know that you are needed, you are loved, and you are cared for, and please reach out for help. With that, today's episode is with Courtney. Courtney and I met at Mom Congress in 2020. Both share stories of severe postpartum depression. And in this episode, Courtney talks to us about her story. She shares what she went through, what her symptoms were, how she got treatment, and really the process of how hard getting treatment was for her. I think it's something that unfortunately many women who have been through it can resonate with, that identifying postpartum depression is the first hurdle and obstacle to get through. And the second, and arguably and really unfortunately, sometimes even bigger, is getting the proper care and treatment. I'm so appreciative for friends like Courtney who are willing to come on and be so raw and vulnerable and sharing what they went through for two reasons. One, so that you know you are never alone. And two, because if, like me, you didn't recognize what you were going through, hearing these things and seeing that they aren't normal, this is not reality, these are actually symptoms that you were experiencing, can help give language to your experience and hopefully get women the treatment that really need it and can benefit from it. With that, please take care listening to this episode and reach out for any support that you might need. Courtney, welcome to the Catch Up with Claire.
Hi, thank you.
I am so excited about this conversation. And we were just having a little pre-chat about how we've both been overcoming sicknesses with ourselves, with our kids. But I'm really glad to be chatting with you this morning.
Thanks, me too. And may our coffee be as strong as it needs to be and our energy drinks be a-flowing, because that's what we need right now.
Yes, I'm excited about this because I just feel like some of the best conversations and like things I learn actually happen before and after recording, because I saw you take a sip of your drink there and I was like, wait, I'm looking for my afternoon pick-me-up beverage that's like between a sparkling water and a soda that has caffeine in it. And I saw your Alani and I'm going to try it.
I hope you do. You have to tell me
Okay.
your favorite flavor once you figure it out.
I will, although you kind of have me sold on the cherry limeade. Like that just sounds like nostalgic. Me's kid growing up in the summer. Like I think, yeah.
For sure.
Okay. I'm excited for this conversation today, and I think it's going to be an important one for so many women who are listening, especially in May. And we know all of the conversation that happens in May as it is Maternal Mental Health Awareness Month. You and I connected 3 years ago now. That's kind of crazy to think. Back in 2023 at Mom Congress. And I've had episodes in the past about Mom Congress. Yelena, who we both met there, was on sharing her story with secondary infertility. And I think just a little bit about Mom Congress we'll get into. But I think the connection that women have in advocacy, in a shared struggle that they go through, it's like this bond. And once you connect with women, even though, I mean, we've kept up through Instagram as any good millennial women do, we haven't seen each other. We haven't had like phone conversations or anything, but I just feel like we've been connected for 3 years since this. And I feel like that's why these events are so powerful. So I'm excited to have you on today because I really want to spend the time getting to know Courtney a little bit, talking about what brought you to Mom Congress and that experience, and really what having May dedicated as this month to health in general, why it matters and what it means.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I feel the same way. It's funny, when you started the podcast, I was telling all my friends, like my friend Claire, and whether
Totally.
yeah, like my friend Claire, who I haven't seen in 3 years, but I'm so proud of everything that she's doing and her Instagram following and everything. I've been so excited. I think you're doing such a great job, and I love the podcast and I listen to all the episodes. So I'm honored to be here on the podcast with you. I think it's such an important for women to reclaim their story if you've gone through a hard or traumatic time. And for me, getting involved with Mom Congress, that's exactly what it was for me. And knowing that I could help somebody else out through sharing my story and going and advocating for maternal mental health bills that were um, available at the time, that just seemed like a perfect fit for me. So I love all things Mom Congress, and found Mom Congress through, it was another like Instagram person I was following. I think I was so desperate and searching for people of like-minded thought process like me, and found someone who shared stories of women going through postpartum depression. And so I found her, and then she shared something about Mom Congress, and then I signed up and I showed up, and I've gone twice. And the second time is when I met you. And I
Mhm.
think we just like immediately clicked, along with Elena, became like a little trio that was ready to fight for our mom voices. And I'm so happy that we were able to connect that way.
An absolute core memory of that trip was I think it was day 2. We met on the first night at the happy hour, then we met Yelena, we were taking pictures in, like, the photo op booth. We did all of our advocacy calls and talked to our representatives, went through all the program for 2 days, and then I think it was the last day, we were waiting on the trains and planes and ways we were getting back to where we were going, and we were at a bar eating french fries and drinking white wine, and I was just like, "This is it." Like, this is what the body needed and craved after such 2 intense days, and I will never forget just like, it's the ability to laugh and cry at the same time and being bonded over an experience that you absolutely never, ever, ever wanted to go through, but then being able to make meaning out of it and feel like, not that it mattered because that's a hard way to say that, like, the really hard things we experience mattered, but giving back and really trying to make a difference out of it.
Giving back.
Before we get too far into it, let's back it way up because we met again out of some of the hardest days and experiences of our lives and turning that into action so that other women don't have to go through what we did. Introduce me to Courtney before postpartum depression. Like, introduce me to Courtney before postpartum depression and like up to finding out you're pregnant for the first time.
So I'm Courtney, and I am a mom of two. I have an almost 10-year-old, she'll be 10 on Monday, and an almost 8-year-old. When I found out that I was pregnant, we were living in St. Louis at the time, my husband and I. We are now in Kansas City, and I'm a diehard Kansas City all things fans. I just love Kansas City and love the city I live in. But we were in St. Louis at the time.
I have to time us out right here.
I
I
know,
didn't
right?
know this. Did I know this?
I
I
don't
like
think so. I don't think so. But I was listening to a couple of the podcast episodes where you talked about St. Louis, and I was like, what?
what? Okay, there's like so many episodes that St. Louis comes up, and like I grew up there, but I'm so unattached to St. Louis now. And it comes up all the time of like people either visiting there and loving it or having lived there. Okay,
Yep.
I love it. I love
So
it. I'm going to stop interrupting, but I had to
no,
call that out.
I grew up in Kansas City, but my parents are both born and raised St. Louisans. So they wanted to move back to St. Louis to be closer to family. And so
Mhm.
when I was getting my undergrad degree, they moved back to St. Louis. So St. Louis is near and dear to our hearts. And it just so happened that there was a job opportunity in St. Louis. So I took that job opportunity. My husband and I had just gotten engaged, or were just about to get engaged. And so we moved there, and we were closer to my parents, which ended up being the biggest blessing because when I had my kids, my mom and dad lived like 5 minutes away from us, which was
Mhm.
like the most glorious thing to have all of our village in the same place. So anyways, we were in St. Louis. We're actually right outside of St. Louis on the St. Charles County side, since you know St. Louis.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where we were. And I think my husband and I were like going to breweries all the time because that was like one of the things we loved doing, just getting out and about, watching sports because I'm a huge sports fan. And like I said, I love all things Kansas City. So I was the person in St. Louis repping the Royals on Cardinals opening day. And I've
Rough.
always been a Chiefs fan since I moved to Kansas City. So I'm like diehard Chiefs fan. So we were probably watching some kind of sports event. We tried to get pregnant for like 8 months. I think we just both knew we were ready to start a family and really excited about it. I think my anxiety got in the way of that and like put too much pressure on it. So I think that's why it ended up taking so long. But that's where we were. I was pregnant and then I had my daughter. I had a little bit of postpartum depression after the birth of my daughter in 2016, but nothing in comparison to what I went through after my son was born 18. That experience is what led me to everything that we've connected on from that point forward.
I didn't realize it was after your second where the PPD hit in. Talk to me about that, and then we'll go back 'cause I'm curious. First baby in 2016, second in 2018. Those are close. Is that 2 under 2?
It's
Or like,
so they're actually 2 years and like 10, 11 days apart. They're,
mama,
yeah. And we're about to start the birthday roll through.
see it.
So, and then my husband is right after my son. So it's like we just get everybody done in one fell swoop.
We did that so unintentionally. It's all in July. It's like the first week of July, and then our anniversary is in July. Like everything happens in
Yep.
July. And like it was nice to be off at the same time and have summer. But like from a planning perspective, on like 2 sets of birthday presents, 2 birthday parties, 2, I'm like, ugh. So
Yes.
I know that.
Yeah, it's a lot. So my daughter, I mean, the most like hard part about having my daughter was that she took 30 hours to come out. 30 hours, she's born on the 30th. So I feel like maybe we were just meant to be that way. I'm not sure. But she, pretty uneventful delivery, just besides she wasn't ready to come out. But I had high blood pressure. So my doctor was like, let's take every precaution there is. Yeah, I had my daughter. I had baby blues is probably what it felt like, but she was a really good baby and really easy. So my doctor, I think he put me on Lexapro, one of the many antidepressants that I've been on over the years. And I kind of felt like I got back into the swing of who I was again. And so I felt okay. And when I got pregnant with my daughter turned 1, we decided we were going to try again, thinking it would take us a long time because it took like 8
That's
months
right.
to get pregnant with her. No, right away, immediately, the first time.
Best laid
So
plans.
my daughter was born in March, and I found out in August. Was it August, July, or August that I was pregnant with my son, and was like, okay, wow, this is going to be a lot. I think there was some anxiety that was going on with that as well. But I went off of my medication because I was wanting to have the safest pregnancy as possible. And in hindsight, I wish I would have stayed on some kind of antidepressant because now knowing that there
Mhm.
are medications that are perfectly safe, it would have been okay. But I can't go back and change anything. And ultimately, everything led me to where I am today. So it is what it is. But yeah, I went off my medication. And so when I had my son, and I knew pretty early on that I was suffering from more than just the baby blues, I got a prescription to go back on an antidepressant. The problem, as you know, is they take like 2 to 3 weeks to kick in. And that's just 2 to 3 weeks that seemed like unbearable to me. That's really where like all of the really, really hard stuff happened, is in those 2 to 3 weeks after being on the medication. But the other main difference is my daughter, like I said, she was an easy baby. And my son, not that he wasn't, but he was just different. And so I had a lot of confidence going into it. Like, I know what I'm doing. I've had a baby. Like, I can totally do this. Everything's going to be great. And he came out and he was just a completely different human being than my daughter was.
Mm.
Wanted to eat, like, around the clock, which that's not how she was. We had to wake her up to feed her. Always hungry. He was colicky. He didn't sleep very well, like, just so many differences. And so it was really, like, truly shock and awe, and I was like, "I'm back at square one. I'm a new parent all over again, and I don't know what I'm doing, and this is the hardest thing of my entire life." And then it kinda just, like, snowballed from there.
Spiral. I'm curious. There's so much that you said in there that I want to touch on and get into. But I think the differences in babies, like, that you're having different people, but I also feel like you gain experience as you go. So, like, I talk to moms who are one and done and say, I wish, like, I feel confident in my decision to be one and done, but I don't have this experience to apply to anything. Cause like, I'm not going to have another baby, but you never know what you're going to get. And I was just as, I don't want to say guilty, but like I had the exact same mindset, a little bit different because my postpartum depression was in my first pregnancy. So I had a lot of anxiety and anticipation. And also our second baby was born during the pandemic. So there was like that whole aspect on top of it. But it was more I could not relax. Felt like I had to be like hyper vigilant about preventing what happened round one. And so I like kept waiting for like the ball to drop, the ball to drop. That being said, like the babies were like very similar. I had a very similar baby. And so this round with our third, totally different baby. Like I went into this being like, okay, I can do it. I know what I'm doing now. Like these babies are the same. And oh my gosh, has she has she taken me on a ride? And I do feel like round 1 and 2 postpartum has prepared me to cope with the ebbs and flows of it. But it's just this expectation of like, am I ever gonna get my sea legs? Like, I know enough now. Like, I feel like I'm calm because I know enough to know that there's always going to be something thrown at me that I do not know and I have not experienced. Getting, I guess, comfortable with that took me having 3 babies and 3 pregnancies and 3 postpartums to like finally grapple with. But it's really hard. And I just don't think we're prepared properly. Something I wanted to touch on in that you said you went on medication after the birth of your daughter, went off it in preparation for getting pregnant, and
Mhm.
then went back on it postpartum, or you went back on it while you were at the end of your pregnancy?
Went back postpartum. So after like the 2-week point, my son was born in early April, and around the 2-week point, I felt not like myself. And I knew I wasn't going to feel like myself. I knew it was going to be different this time having a toddler and a newborn, but I just knew something was up. So I absolutely adored my OBGYN. He was magical, and I'm sad that I don't see him anymore, honestly, like the best doctor. He said, "Look, let's get you on some medication. Let's see how this goes." I felt like I was doing all the right things, knowing like, okay, I need to get back on my medication. This is what I'm going to do. And then I'll start feeling like myself. But in between the time that the medication took to kick in and just life in general, like things just took a really dark turn, and the rest of the story goes from there. But it was medication after I had him, not during. I wish that I would have gone on medication during.
I really appreciate you saying that, Courtney, because I do think, I mean, this is back in 2018, and I think public discourse around the topic of medication during pregnancy is so very different. There's still so much stigma and misinformation around it, but I do think that it is different. It's going in the right direction, at least, and there's much more acceptance around it and understanding that, as you said, there is a way to safely take your antidepressants during pregnancy, and not all of them. I'm just going to put a disclaimer here. I'm not a doctor, but before someone yells at me. But if that is something that you were on pre-pregnancy and has been fundamental and supportive to your mental health, that work with your OBGYN, work with your psychologist, psychiatrist, work with your prescribing doctor to make sure that you have a plan, because it can totally change the experience of pregnancy, of postpartum. Do you want to talk at all about the 2-week wait and what happened, and getting to what happened, or we want to move on a little bit?
It was kind of a series of events that transpired. It was right around my birthday. So my birthday is in early May. So my son was not even a month old yet. I was waiting for this medication to kick in. I had my very first panic attack, and it was like the most non-panicked situation. I had gone over to my mom's house. I had brought Miles home. He was in his car seat carrier. I put him on the coffee table. He was still asleep. I sat on the couch, and I just was filled with pure panic what to do if he woke up. Like, it's like I forgot what I was supposed to be doing. I just wanted him to sleep because he hadn't napped very well that day and he hadn't slept the night before. I was going on like no sleep and had my first panic attack. So I called my mom, who came over right away, and luckily it was close. But then I also called my OBGYN, and he gave me a prescription for like quick panic attack anti-anxiety medicine, which in that moment was a lifesaver. But it was just a Band-Aid at the time because the panic attacks continued to happen. And I didn't know, honestly, I thought I was dying. I'd never had a panic attack before, and my heart was beating out of my chest. I was just filled with tremendous amount of fear, and it was scary. The whole thing was scary. So after that, I had a couple more panic attacks. And then it was the day after my birthday, which is like goes down in one of the worst days of my life, was in another situation where Miles was sleeping. I think he was into like Mamaroo at the time. Are those, I don't know if those are still a thing, but it was
Yeah.
a lifesaver for us.
Mm-hmm.
He was in his Mamaroo sleeping, and I was just filled with panic again. Like, what am I going to do? And I also just felt like a zombie. Like, I felt like I had this out of body experience. Like, who is this person? Who is this baby? I started having really, really dark thoughts, which I'll share because honestly, I have nothing to hide. And if it makes any person, one person, any one mom feel like she's not alone, then and gets help, then it's fine. I remember writing in my journal, if he died of SIDS, at least I would get some sleep.
Mm.
Which, like, saying out loud is the most horrible thought I've ever had in my entire life. But at the time, I was sleep deprived. My hormones were going through like this magic roller coaster of craziness. And it just wasn't, it was a postpartum depression talking. It wasn't really me. And I've worked through a lot of therapy to be able to like be okay with saying that I had those dark of thoughts. And I just remember sitting there thinking like, why am I even here? If I'm having those kind of thoughts about my son, why am I here? Why should I be here? I'm not a good mom. I'm a burden to my family. If I'm going to be this person who just has panic attacks all the time or can't even take care of her son, what kind of parent am I? And I said some of these things out loud, and my husband and my mom both like gave each other a look that is pretty hard to get out of your mind. And so then we called my OBGYN, and he suggested that I go to the emergency room. I hadn't come up with like a plan to end my life, but I was having suicidal ideation. And it was enough for those who love me to be very afraid. And it scared me too. So we went to the ER, and they put me in the room for people who are having mental illness. I was in a paper gown or paper like scrubs. The TV was bolted to the wall. There was plexiglass in front of it. I couldn't be alone. There was somebody outside my room. Like, just memories that are etched into my brain of a time when it was my absolute like worst time of my life. I just remember thinking like, it has to be better. Something has to be better than this. It has to get better, or I'm not going to be around to see it, because this is just like, it was truly felt like it was just too much. And so, yeah, I was at the ER. I met with a behavioral health specialist who talked me through everything, and then talked with my husband and my mom about next steps. They decided, because of the support that I had from family and because I wasn't like, a single parent or something like that, that I was okay to do outpatient treatment, and so they didn't hold me there overnight or anything. I went home, but my husband had to lock up my medication because they had asked me if I was going to take my own life, would there, and this is trigger warning for anybody who's ever felt this way, but like, was there a way that I would potentially do it? And medication was something that I said. And so he had to be in charge of all my medication. I basically became a toddler and was watched 24/7. And after I went home, they had scheduled me to have an appointment with, I believe it was a psychiatrist the very next day. The next day, when I got to the place where I was supposed to go, everything got messed up. And the whole system felt like it had turned on me. They didn't have my name down for the appointment book. There was some mix up between the hospital and the place where I was supposed to go. And so they said they didn't have an appointment, and the next available appointment was going to be in 5 to 6 weeks. To which I just said, I don't have 5 to 6 weeks. I won't be here in 5 to 6 weeks. I need help. And I just broke down and cried in the waiting room. And there was this wonderful, wonderful woman who worked at this facility, or I don't even know where it was. It was like an office space, physician's office. And she said, come into my office. And so we all went into her office, and she heard me crying and heard me upset. And I now call her my guardian angel. She made calls. She asked about my insurance. She made calls and found me a facility to get into that week so I could start treatment that week. And she made 15 phone calls to find a place for me. And she didn't have to do that. That wasn't part of her job. But she just did it because she saw I was somebody who needed help. And if it wasn't for her and it wasn't for the treatment that I got after that, I don't know if I'd be here. So she truly, truly, truly is an angel on this earth.
Courtney, you had me choking up at several points as you recalled this story. And now I'm getting teary-eyed again. I just want to say, first of all, thank you so much for being so brave. Thank you so much for advocating so hard for yourself. I am so grateful that you're here and we're having this conversation today and you were able to get life-saving help. Wow, I'm really sorry. That really took me. I hear so much of what you went through and I resonate a lot in my own story. And I think of all the protective factors that you had and that how lucky you and I both got because of the protective factors, and also just to put it out there, the privilege we both have to be able to have the insurance, have the financial support, have the support system, have access to care. And that doesn't take away anything from what you or I have been through. It doesn't take away a minute of the pain, of the heartache, of, as you said, the trauma that's etched in your brain. As you were saying, I can, there are moments of what I went through that I physically feel in my body. And they just there's scenes and pictures that just live there. Um, and I just want to thank you so much for sharing and for being so open. I'm so, so, so sorry that you have had to go through that and have had to experience that. I know that by sharing these conversations and by sharing the very real experiences that we've had, this is how change happens, because I never heard, and I want to ask some follow-up questions here, but I just want to expand on what you shared and the importance of sharing those details, what that means. When I went through postpartum depression for the first time and was having panic attacks, I didn't have the language to know that it was a panic attack. I
Right.
didn't know that I was experiencing panic. I had a severe panic attack in my third pregnancy, which actually put me in the hospital. But I knew what was happening because I had the experience. I had therapy. I had experienced it before. I had the language. I had the signs and symptoms to know what to look for. And I had the support of who to call. In my first postpartum, I didn't know. And similarly, some of the same thoughts that you were having, I didn't know that I was having suicidal ideation. I was thinking this was rational thought. I
Mhm.
was thinking this is just how I am now. And I'm not cut out for this. And I don't have a role here. I don't have a good role here. And that's not true. That is, as you said, that's the depression. That's the symptom. That's the anxiety. That's the panic. That's the OCD.
Mhm.
Anyone for listening, like if you're thinking like, I've had that, I've felt that, that is not reality. That is what you're experiencing. And that is why you need to pick up the phone and call and get help. And there's going to be resources in the show notes in order for you to do that. But I just want to thank you, Courtney, because being able to share that and talk through that, I know how vulnerable it is. I know how scary it is. I know it was almost 10 years ago what you went through. It's been almost 8 years since I've been through, and I still get teary-eyed about it. It still is emotional because it lives with us and it's haunting. And there's still so many women that it happens to every single day, and they don't know what's happening to them, and they don't have the resources, and they don't know that if they show up to the clinic and are told, we can see you in 5 to 6 weeks, that you can't leave. Like, you have to stay there and you have to fight for yourself, and you should not have to. Like,
You should not.
we should not be in that position in the country in which we live in to beg for our lives, for the support and the care that we need. And we do. And do it because you're meant to be here and we're meant to be here. So just like taking a moment of gratitude and thankfulness that you shared everything, you talked through your story with us, and that you're here to do that. I really can't say how much I appreciate that.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that. It's taken me a long time to get comfortable and okay with talking about it and sharing some of the exact details. I'll say that postpartum depression robbed me of a third child. I'd always wanted 3 kids. I have 2 kids. Postpartum depression did me in, and I got my tubes tied shortly after I went through what I went through because I just couldn't do it again. And I remember the joy hearing you were pregnant with your third. I remember the joy that I felt, like, she's gonna do it. She's gonna do it. Like, there's life after postpartum depression. And just feeling like a little bit of jealousy too, because I wanted
Mhm.
a third, but also just like immense joy and like a lot of different feelings. Scared for you, but also like Claire knows what she's doing. She's been through the treatment. She knows what to look out for and things like that. Because it just wasn't in the cards for me after what I went through. I could not ever have another baby. I was too afraid. I let the fear define the plan. And now the plan's perfect. 2 kids is perfect. I don't think I can handle I'm envious of people with 3, but I don't think I could handle 3. I don't think my anxiety could take it. So in awe of you and going through it after postpartum depression for sure.
I am standing here right back in awe of you. And I just want to reframe that. First of all, thank you for being so transparent and sharing some of those feelings. I've felt them too, when I look at others. I hear that postpartum depression robbed me of a third. What I hear and I see is Courtney's taken the steps to put in place the life and support that she needs to be the best mom she can be for the 2 beautiful children that she has, and is doing a fucking rock star job at that. And you put in place the life that you gave yourself, the life that can allow you to show up for yourself, for your children, for your family. And I think it's been absolutely beautiful to watch from the sidelines over here. I also think something that you talked about though is so important of like, it's true. Like, I feel so robbed of a first time pregnancy and postpartum experience. And I think for me, that's why this third baby has actually been really healing, because for me, it was a surprise pregnancy. I wasn't ready. I wasn't prepared. I then obviously had very severe postpartum depression, but I always had these dreams of becoming a mom. Like, I always knew I wanted to have a big family. I always knew I wanted to raise kids. And then when it happened, the way that it happened, I was like, no, I plan everything. Like, I script my life and I make it happen the way I want it to happen. Like that, I'm like that type A. This just flipped the script on me entirely to the point of like, I wasn't even pregnant and we weren't even trying to get pregnant. And I was already thinking of like, well, one day when we get pregnant, like this is how I'm going to tell Zach that I'm pregnant. And this is how I'm going to announce to my family my pregnancy. And this is what I want to decorate a nursery like. And like, I had all of these fantasies about what it was going to be like. And then when it happened, I remember sobbing, like I didn't want a baby shower. I felt so embarrassed that I was pregnant because it was a surprise and I felt like it wasn't supposed to happen. And I felt like people could sniff on me that like, oh, she's not really excited. Like I felt like I had a fake excitement, but I felt like they could sniff it out. And so I felt like I didn't deserve to be celebrated. And I just felt scandalous. Like I was 25 and married and like there was nothing scandalous about it.
Mm.
But I just felt like I don't deserve to be celebrated. I don't want to be celebrated for something that I don't want, and just like all the things that came with it. And when my second came, it was again the pandemic, and so and like again I was better. I wasn't having any depression symptoms. I wouldn't say that I was having full on anxiety, but it was more the precipitory anxiety of I knew too much and like, is this going to happen again? It's not going to happen the same way because I'm in treatment still and I know what to look out for and we're going to have all the parameters and guardrails in place. But I
Mhm.
can't let my guard down because we just don't know. And then the third round, I was like, this is the last one. Like, I just want to enjoy it the most that I can. But I also felt a little bit like no one cares when you're having a third baby. Like, not that nobody cares, but like, first time pregnant people are like so celebrated and it's so exciting, as they should be. Like,
Yes.
absolutely. I want to celebrate you to the fucking nines. I
Right.
want to go all out on your baby shower. I just felt like I missed out on that celebration of life myself because of where I was. And like I still had a baby shower for my first. I just mentally wasn't in the room. They wanted to invite so many people. And I was like, no, please don't come. Like, I don't even want to tell people that, like, it was like, and so I know what you're saying though around like these experiences that the depression steals from us that you just can't go back and recreate. And so it's been 7 years of therapy and work reclaiming my voice around it and reclaiming my story around it to like, I had all these fantasies and those fantasies aren't going to play out. But let's look at the reality and let's like, what is a new fantasy? And fantasies they aren't real. Like that is why we feel good and excited and like dream about them, but where is the reality and where can we like base ourselves in what's happening? So it's taken a lot of work for me to be able to feel okay with some of those feelings. So again, I just appreciate you sharing that like it's a complex set of emotions of like, of course we're so happy for the people in our life
Yeah.
and we're totally valid in having our own emotions and experiences about it. Both and many of those feelings can all exist at once.
Yeah. Learning how many emotions and feelings you can have at one time wasn't ever anything that crossed my mind until I got into therapy and realized like you can feel two things at once. Same thing, like I can love my kids and I can want to hurt them because fighting for like the however many time that day or, not feeling appreciated or something like that. You can feel two things, you can feel five things at once and it's all valid.
Talk to me about treatment. So treatment leading into finding Mom Congress, because I know we didn't overlap at Mom Congress. I know we had both been twice, but we didn't meet until our second times there. My first time was in 2019. Talk to
Same.
me about, you were there in 2019?
I don't know
Okay,
how
so
we missed each other.
how did we miss each other?
I don't know.
Okay, well, there we go. You know what? The New York group was much bigger in 2019. There were there's a whole handful of us, and in 2023, it was just me and Yelena. So maybe that's how. I don't know. Wow. Okay, so we were
I
both
also
there.
yeah, I flew in it I was getting my master's degree and had my graduation, like, the day that we were supposed to fly out to DC for Mom Congress. My mom went with me the very first time, and so
Okay.
we, like, missed a lot of the opening activities, so I'm sure that was part of it. Yeah, my treatment was, I did an intensive outpatient program. It was a women's therapy group, and I did 9 hours of therapy a week. So there were 3 sessions. I would go for 3 hours. I think I did the math there correctly. I don't do math. Anyways, went and participated in therapy, CBT therapy, all the different methods, strategies that you can think of. That's what I was doing. Um, and like we've talked about, the privilege that I had, my mom and my husband were able to watch Miles while I would go to treatment. I started bringing him towards the end of treatment, which really to me was like a signal that I was getting better because I was bonding with him more. Another thing that postpartum depression did was rob me of the first 6 months really with him. And the bond that I created right away with my daughter, it took a little bit longer for me to bond with my son. And that's something that makes me sad, but also know that we're perfectly fine now. He's my little Velcro boy, and always attached to me. So anyways, I did an intensive outpatient program, I think for 12 weeks. It was during my entire maternity leave. And since then, I've dealt with depression and anxiety in so many different ways. I've done other types of treatment. So I think the one that I've done most recently was like what you did, a partial hospitalization program. So I've done one of those before. Just know postpartum depression is something that can stick around for a while, but I'm also just predisposed to mental health issues. So I'm on medication now. I'm on therapy once a week. I've done all types of treatment, but the intensive outpatient program is really what I credit to saving my life. Because if it wasn't for being in that group of women with the therapist that I had, she was amazing. And then I met with a psychiatrist once or twice a week. I can't even remember at this point. Once a week, maybe, to get my medication correct. It would have completely changed who I was. So I'm so, so, so thankful for the treatment program that I ended up doing. And from there, like I said, I was on Instagram and I was following and searching and looking for people who had gone through something similar, because I just felt like I've always been a person who thinks I'm a storyteller.
Mm-hmm.
It's what I do, my profession. I'm a storyteller. And personally, I'm a storyteller. And I think telling your story is so powerful. And I was looking for people who were telling their stories, but also a place where I could tell my story. And I ended up finding someone who had a platform where she shared stories about postpartum depression. And so I got brave enough. It was about a year, close to a year after I had Miles and had gone through treatment, and was still seeing a therapist regularly and psychiatrist. I got brave enough to submit my story, to write it, and took a lot of different tries, a lot of tears. But I wrote it up and I submitted it, and she ended up publishing it on her website. And she posted it on social media, and I shared it on social media. And the amount of feedback that I got, the positive feedback that I got, I had a similar situation, or I felt this way too, just made me feel like I wasn't alone. And she started sharing content about Mom Congress. And I talked to my mom and really felt like my mom was my security blanket at the time and really wanted her to go with me. And Mom Congress, the day of the visits to the different legislators, was actually on my birthday. And it felt like me retaking my birthday back from the year prior. Because the year prior, the day after, I was in the ER. And the next year, I was in DC advocating for better maternal mental health care in our country. And it just felt like full circle for me. And I couldn't think of a better way to take something that was really, really dark and turn it around. And so that's what I did.
Had you, prior to going to Mom Congress, had you ever been an advocate or been involved in anything like that previously? Or was this a first time type of experience for you?
Let's see. When I was pregnant with Miles, I went and did the women's rally in St. Louis, the women's march. I went and did that. My mom and I are kind of like little activists. So it's in our DNA. I'm not great at advocating for myself, or it's an area of growth and an area of opportunity for me. Besides, when I was at rock bottom, that's when I had to say what I had to say. I find it a lot easier to advocate for other people, and kind of like a hype girl, yeah, I got you. I got your back. I'm going to do this for you. And so it was really easy to think about advocating for other moms out there. And what I learned was I was going to have to share my story and talk about what I went through. And in a way, it was healing for me to be able to share my story with the legislators that were representing where I lived, talk about bills that were so and are still so important to moms across our country that, yeah, I had advocated a little bit before, but nothing to the scale of what I did at Mom Congress.
What was it like the first year, 2019, at Mom Congress for you, going, because that was back going in person too, and we were in the state capitol going office to office. What was it like when you were meeting with the representatives, sharing your story?
I remember being a little disappointed that I didn't get to meet with my actual representative, that I was meeting with one of her staffers. But now knowing like that's just kind of part of how it all works. And since then, I've gotten to meet with actual representatives. Since that initial experience. I really don't have words to describe it because it it was a brand new experience, so it was scary. Putting myself out there and putting myself out there to like these big wigs in my eyes that have so much power. It was scary. It was healing because I was talking through the most difficult point in my life, and also by speaking about it, healing myself. But it was also exhilarating because I was with a group of women and men, there were men there too,
Mhm.
who all were coming together for the same reason, and we were all uniting. And there's something like, I am an introvert at heart. I just love like being by myself sometimes and being introverted, and I can be extroverted, but it takes more energy out of me. And so if you put me in a room full of people and I'm supposed to do small talk, like I get social anxiety about it for sure. Not at Mom Congress. It's the only place that I've ever felt like talk to any of these women, and I'm just an open book. Like within the first couple minutes of chatting with someone in the opening night, you're like, well, here's what happened to me. What happened to you? And you just like unload on each other because you know you're there for the same reason. So it's the place where like my social anxiety disappears. It's magic. And it's because we're all there for the same reason, and we're all there. We've all gone through something together. Some of the stories that were shared at Mom Congress were eye-opening. There was a man who shared a story about his wife who is no longer with us because she didn't get the help that she needed, and she reached out to several different doctors and just wasn't able to get the help. And it was one of those moments where you feel lots of different emotions at the same time because you're thankful that you're here, but you're also just like, your heart breaks because you know exactly how that woman felt. So Mom Congress has such a special, special place in my heart, for sure.
It's such a powerful experience. And I think exactly as you said, like it makes you realize the importance and power of what you're doing. Because like we said at the beginning of this, of in a way, we got lucky because of the privileges we have and the support that we were able to get for ourselves. And I think what also makes you feel like such thin ice is there are very few things outside of luck that separated us from the women who were being women in the room versus being the no longer with us wives and mothers of men who are there on behalf of women that they love. And I think that's a very chilling experience. And the power in it is that, and what I found at least, is there's no one that can share our stories like we can. And being able to have the power to walk into those offices and say, this is why you need to care about this. This is why you need to put this on your legislative agenda because this is unacceptable and this cannot continue to happen to women and families in our country. And this is exactly what you need to do about it.
Yep.
There's power in that. And I think there's also been for me so much learning in the advocacy process of like, I had no idea what I was walking into with Mom Congress. I also found it through social media. I'm just coming up for air from 9 months of super intense depression, and this fell into my algorithmic lap. Let's take a train down to DC and what could happen.
Right.
and having no idea what would be asked of me and what was expected and anything. And I think I went in so like, we're going to go tell these people what's up and they're going to do this and we're going to make it their priority and they are going to care so much and boom, bam, look at us, let's go and sign something into law.
Right then and there.
Right then and there. No, literally. And so like, I say that because of like realizing that this is something that shapes our generation. And these are advocacy efforts that require long haul engagement and involvement. And you and I have both been back to Mom Congress. And I know, without even talking about it, that we're both engaged in various nonprofit organizations and advocacy groups around national advocacy groups, both at a national level and in our own communities. And I think it's so important to be engaged in those because these things take time to shape national discourse, to shape policies that can be turned into legislation that can be passed. I think about the whole like paid leave conversation, which is huge right now, but that wasn't even on our advocacy agenda back in 19.
Right.
And that's really come up in the last couple of years. And we've seen how that you have to start the conversation and start telling the stories and then collect even more and keep doubling down and shaping things. And it takes a really long time. And so like I hear people all the time of like getting exhausted or burnout with it and always coming back to the why. Like I always ground myself in this shouldn't be happening. No one should be experiencing these things. And we live in the wealthiest, most powerful country in the world. We need to hold ourselves to a standard of doing better. And the way that we do that is we be active participants. And that happens starting at advocacy levels. I'm so grateful, Courtney, for you sharing your story with us, for talking through all of this with us. I want to leave us on a little bit of some lighter notes because I have found some beautiful, beautiful things that have bonded us since 2023 that I think we could geek out a little bit about. And that is our queen, Taylor Swift.
Yes. Swift.
Hardest pivot in the history of pivots here.
Do it.
But have you always been a Swiftie? And mostly, I heard when you were talking about St. Louis that even at your time in St. Louis, have always been a Chiefs fan. What is it like being the favorite of Taylor now? Like I'm not a Chiefs fan, but I am a Taylor fan. And so therefore I find myself paying attention to the Chiefs. What's it been like?
Yeah. I have not always been a Taylor Swift fan. I remember my first job out of college, I worked at a news station. I was a news producer here in Kansas City, and they gave me tickets to a Taylor Swift concert. And I went, and I couldn't even tell you what album it was. She was still singing country at this point. That's
Early days.
Yeah, early days. So I went to one of her concerts and was like, this is great, but not like super fan or anything. My daughter definitely got me into Taylor. And like I said, I've always been a diehard Chiefs fan, me and my dad. But once she started dating Travis, it's like the world took hold of Kansas City and like put Kansas City on the map. And I love it for our city. I remember when they like first showed her at the NFL game that she was at the Chiefs game, my daughter like freaked out and went nuts. And since then, I've become like a major Swiftie because we went and saw, I wasn't able to take her to the Eras tour, but we went and saw the movie together and we've done all the Taylor things. There's been so many cool Taylor things that have happened in Kansas City at Union Station. Like when they got engaged, there was this huge like photo op that you could go do at Union Station. It's just been like so exciting to watch. And Travis has always been one of my favorite players. So I'm not surprised that she started dating him. He's like powerhouse. So, and he's so cute and love him. So I love them together. All of Kansas City loves the love story of those two. So, I just remember being on a work call and somebody said, "Oh my God." And we were thinking like somebody's like or somebody's went off and like something's wrong with one of their kids or something like that. And she's like, "Taylor and Travis got engaged."
I love it.
Like that's a thing here. It was big news. It was like local news everywhere. So I love Taylor. I love Travis. I love them together. And I'm just here for it all.
Okay, wait. One last Kansas City hot take, maybe, that I want to hear from you. I didn't know about this, but again, I don't have a dog in this fight. Are you on the Missouri side or the Kansas side? And the reason I'm asking is because your stadium is moving, and how do you feel about this?
So I'm on the Kansas side. I
Which is
grew
where they're
up
going, right?
Yes, where they're
Okay.
going. So I grew up on the Kansas side. When I was young and out of college, I lived on the Missouri side and I loved it. There's really no bad side of the state line for Kansas City. Everything about, like I said, I love the city so much. Mixed emotions about us moving our stadium. I like that it's coming over to the Kansas side because I live on the Kansas side. But there's something magical about Arrowhead Stadium. It's considered one of my happy places on this earth. So it's definitely going to be different. And my dad got season tickets this past season as his retirement gift. And so I got to go to so many games and just cherish that place so much. But we still have, I think, 4 or 5 more seasons before we move. So it's a hot button topic here in Kansas City for sure, but I think it'll be good. It's just change is hard, so it's going to be challenging, but we can do it. I know our city can do it.
And like you said, there's a couple years to cope with it and get used to the idea.
I talk about it in therapy for sure.
As we wrap up, we've covered a lot today, and again, I know I've said it a lot, but I'm not going to stop saying how appreciative I am for you in your honesty and transparency, and I know that this is going to help many, many women, so thank you for that. Talk to us about what this season of motherhood looks like for you now. We spent a lot of time about the early days and the postpartum period. I think once you're postpartum, you're always postpartum, but I also heard you say you have an almost 10-year-old, an almost 8-year-old. What does this season of motherhood look like for you now?
I love this season of motherhood. I love that my kids are pretty much self-sufficient for the most part. They still need me from time to time. They've become their own little people, and it's just really, really fun to watch. And I think one of my favorite things that we focus on as a family is kindness. And I love hearing how kind my kids are from other people. That seems like the biggest parenting win that I could ever take home. And so when we talk about school conferences, we are thankful if they're doing well in school. That's always super important. But I always want to know what kind of person my kid is and what kind of person they are really matters. And I love hearing that. And I know that that's partially just because of they're getting older and I can see them grow up. So watching them grow into their own little people and personalities is really, really fun right now. And I know that we joke around with my daughter. I always tell her I'm a cool mom. She's like, if you have to say it, I don't think you are. But we've joked around I'm going to get a shirt that says I'm a cool mom. I'm Ruby's cool mom. And she's going to die of embarrassment. That's kind of the phase I'm at right now with
I
her.
love that.
And my son is still yeah, mom, you are a cool mom because he's just smart and knows how to play the game. But this season of motherhood right now is just watching them grow into who they're going to be. And it's it's really freaking cool to watch for sure.
There's so much richness in it. It's really beautiful. I love hearing that, and it's the best compliment I think any mom can ever get is hearing how your kid behaves when you're not around, and it's a testament to you as their mother and the family and support that you provided them. Courtney, wrap us up here. Talk to this community of listeners of what would you needed or wanted to hear when you were in the depths of it with postpartum depression. Speak to those listeners and what can they take away from this?
You are not alone. There are dark times that you're going through right now, and I can't take that away from you. I can't change that for you as much as I wish I could, but you're not alone. This is just temporary. This is a symptom. This is a hard time that will pass, but there is help. There is a village of people who want to help you. There's so many different resources. They're just not as widely available. They are now more so than I remember when I went through what I went through, but there are people who want to help you if you are struggling. You matter. You're a good mom. You are the perfect mom for your child, and your child needs you, and your family needs you. and this too shall pass.
This too shall pass. No more perfect place to end this conversation than on that. Thank you for this time together, Courtney. Thank you for your honesty and your transparency and sharing your story. It matters. You matter. And I'm so grateful for this conversation with you.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
We'll talk soon. Bye. I hope you enjoyed this episode of The Catch Up with Claire. If you did, I would so appreciate if you subscribe, follow, rate, and comment wherever you're listening from. Share it with someone else you think might enjoy listening. This is how I can continue to have these conversations and bring these conversations to you. Until next time, be kind, be brave, and be safe out there.